All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we are cracking the code on what is probably the most high-stakes part of your social studies exam, the structured response questions, or SRQs. We're going to demystify them using a real prelim paper so you can see exactly what examiners are looking for.
You know, it's the question every single student asks. How do I actually get full marks on these essays? It can honestly feel like a total mystery sometimes. Well, today, we're not just giving you a peek behind the curtain, we're handing you the examiner's secret checklist. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll crack the SRQ code itself. Then, we are going to master the formula for question 6 and follow that up with the more advanced formula for question 7. And to finish it all off, we'll wrap it up with a super clear blueprint you can take right into your exam. You ready? Let's do this.
Okay, Section 1, cracking the SRQ code. We're zooming in, and I mean really zooming in, on questions 6 and 7. And why these two? Simple, because mastering them is the single fastest way to see a real jump in your grade. 15 marks. That's what these two questions are worth when you put them together. That is a huge chunk of your final grade. So nailing them isn't just a nice little bonus, it's an absolutely essential strategy. The real question is, how do we lock in every single one of those marks? So let's get right into it. Section 2 is all about mastering question 6. Look, this isn't about guesswork, it's about following a proven formula. Once you see it, you'll finally get how to go from just listing points to actually explaining them for those top marks.
Okay, so here's the exact question we're going to tear apart, straight from the paper. What can Singapore do to continue to promote sporting excellence? Explain your answer with reference to 2 suggestions. The keywords you really need to lock onto here are promote sporting excellence and, of course, 2 suggestions.
And here is the secret sauce. The examiner's own marking guide. Level 1, well, that's just a basic description. Level 2 is where you identify suggestions, and that'll get you about halfway. But the gold, the real prize, is level 3, which gets you 5 to 7 marks. And what's the magic word that unlocks it? Explains. That is our target. So how do we get to that sweet L3 spot? It's a simple winning formula. Step 1, you identify a clear strategy. Step 2, you describe it with some specific examples. And step 3, you explain exactly how it helps promote sporting excellence. Identify, describe, explain. It's really that straightforward. And here's that formula in action, pulled directly from an official sample answer. Watch this. First, it identifies the strategy, investing more in youth development. Then it describes it with a real example, how schools can work with sports academies. And finally, it explains the outcome, linking it right back to the question. This allows Singapore to build a strong talent pipeline. See? Identify, describe, explain. That, my friends, is a perfect 7-mark answer. Okay, we've totally cracked question 6. Now, let's level up and tackle question 7. This one is worth 8 marks, and it asks you to weigh different factors, which I know can seem a little tricky, but don't you worry, there's a clear formula for this one too. Here's the question. Do you think having good leadership is more important than practicing meritocracy to ensure Singapore's progress? The key phrase you need to zero in on is more important than. That's your big clue. This is a comparison question, which means you have to make a final judgment call. Now, before we can even start comparing, let's get crystal clear on what these 2 things even mean. Good leadership is all about having honest, capable leaders making smart, long-term decisions. On the other hand, practicing meritocracy is about having a system where your ability and your effort are what get you ahead, not where you came from. You have to explain the value of both to have a shot at this.
Now listen up, because this is a really common trap. You can't just pick one side and ignore the other. To even get into the level 3 range, you have to explain both factors. First, explain how good leadership drives progress. Maybe bring up an example like Lou Tiker. Then, you have to do the same thing for meritocracy, maybe mentioning a scheme like EduSave. You have to prove you see the value in both before you can even think about comparing them.
So, once you've explained both sides, you've already secured yourself a solid level 3 answer, which is great. But to get that final top-tier level 4 mark, you have to answer the ultimate question. Which one is actually more important? This next move is what examiners call weighing. And it's not just about picking a winner. It's about explaining why one factor is more foundational, more fundamental than the other. You have to show how they relate. Ask yourself this: does one of these factors basically make the other one possible? Answering that is the key.
And here we can see that logic in a perfect level 4 paragraph. It argues that good leadership is more crucial for a very specific reason. And here's the critical link: because it is strong, principled leaders who shape national policies and uphold values like meritocracy in the first place. Boom. It shows that one factor is the foundation for the other. That is what elevates your answer and gets you the top marks.
Okay, let's bring it all home and wrap this up with your blueprint for success. We've gone through all the mechanics, so now let's just boil it down to the key takeaways you need to remember when you're sitting in that exam hall.
Here it is, your final checklist. For question 6, remember, identify, describe, explain. And you have to do it for both suggestions. For question 7, explain both factors first, then make your judgment by weighing them. When you weigh, show why one is the foundation for the other. And for both questions, the golden rule: specific examples are everything. They're what make your arguments real and convincing.
So there you have it, the examiner's checklist, the winning formulas, and your blueprint for success. These questions aren't a mystery anymore. The code has been well and truly cracked. Now that you have the blueprint, the only question left is, are you ready to write?